Donald Trump wants it to be illegal to criticize him. That's not an overreaction. He has canceled late night hosts. He has made reporters pay millions of dollars in frivolous lawsuits for pointing out the facts of his criminality and corruption. And now he's going after the media in a new way in an insane post that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into the liberal host that Donald Trump now wants to throw in jail for what he has announced is a new crime, and of course it's not, but we'll get into that. I want to start with what Rachel Maddow, someone always getting under Donald Trump's skin, had to say about the importance of protesting him.
Overstated that one of the reasons protest is important is because it can keep you sane. But also, I mean, generally speaking, when it comes to your rights, use them or lose them. Any authoritarian worth his inevitably weird hairdo would love to extinguish your right to protest, your right to free speech, your right to free assembly. It is harder to take those rights away from free people when free people regularly exercise those rights. But tactically, strategically, protesting is also important against authoritarianism, even if the authoritarian himself doesn't care about what the protests and the protesters are doing. It's important still because authoritarian leaders like to present themselves as all-powerful, right? They like to present themselves as strong men who have all the power they want or need. They can do anything they want. But strongmen leaders alone don't have that much power at all, particularly in a system like ours, which is historically a democracy and is only right now in the process of consolidating into a would-be authoritarian state at the hands of a would-be dictator, right? We're still in the process here. Nothing is inevitable. The American people and institutions in this country get a say into how far he's going to be able to go. And sometimes protest is the most important lever in determining what institutions and powerful people themselves are willing to do, regardless of what Trump wants. I will say, for example, it's not within Trump's power to remove a late-night comedian from the air for criticizing him. Right? Trump can't do that unilaterally. He needs the company that employs that comedian. He needs the other companies involved in that business to effectively act for him once he starts complaining about that comedian and saying that guy ought to not be on the air. When Trump pressures companies to do his bidding in a case like that, oftentimes those companies will just cave and do what Trump tells them to do. But oftentimes, those companies will also be susceptible to pressure from the people to not do what Trump wants. Also, Trump's chaotic, lawless deportation spree, right? He can't do it alone. Trump tried at first doing it all with military planes. Remember how hilarious that was? He had like huge C-17 cargo planes. Those can carry 77 tons of troops and equipment. And Trump was flying C-17s around with like 5 people on board in the back because he thought that would look tough. Dude, we're paying for that plane. You got 5 guys on board. Now, he needs contractors to participate in this, like, say, Avello Airlines, to volunteer to provide deportation flights, because they're excited to make money off of ICE, to make money off of Trump's deportations. And that is, of course, Avello's right to compete for contracts like that. But then, you know, if you want to just say you're going to spray some Febreze around and unhook the shackles and then try to sell the American flying public on also buying seats on those same planes for their vacation flight to Cancun or whatever, after you've been using them to deport people in Trump's utterly lawless, chaotic, shambolic deportation regime. Well, you know, the people of this country are going to have something to say about that too, which Avello is now learning.
At a time in which Donald Trump desperately wants us to not be out in the streets, calling him out, pointing out his lies, and pushing back against this authoritarian takeover, it is more important than ever to do so. And as media outlets cave to the pressure of Donald Trump, those who call themselves independent media don't just need to act independently of corporate ownership, they also have to be fighting back against the narratives pushed by the mainstream press. Talk about Donald Trump's cognitive decline, talk about the Epstein files, call a genocide, stand up to corporate interest. That's what we have to be doing. And the people who I've seen have the most success in doing so, besides Lawrence O'Donnell over at MSNBC, have largely been late-night talk show hosts, the Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert's, and the latest target of Donald Trump's attacks, who he says should be going to jail for his supposed crime. Trump just wrote on Truth Social, Seth Meyers of NBC may be the least talented person to perform live in the history of television. In fact, he may be the worst to perform live or otherwise. I watched his show the other night for the first time in years, and he talked endlessly about electric catapults on aircraft carriers, which I complain about as not being as good as much less expensive steam catapults. On and on he went, a truly deranged lunatic. Why does NBC waste its time and money on a guy like this? No talent, no ratings, 100% anti-Trump, which is probably illegal. Being 100% anti-Trump, in our president's opinion, should be and might be illegal. Why? And this is a funny thing that you hear from Donald Trump, and you really hear it a lot, even more so than from Trump, from Pete Hegseth saying that the media is so biased against them that Trump says 98% of the coverage he gets is bad, which I think you could look at the Fox Propaganda Network and disprove that in about half a second. But Pete Hegseth bemoans that 100% of the coverage of his show on him from different outlets, I guess he was on Fox for a while, is bad. What positives would anyone have about Pete Hegseth's time as the Secretary of Defense? He started out being grilled, rightfully so, by senators about his abusive habits, his drinking, his binge drinking, his inability to do the job that he wanted, which was lead in a small capacity in charities. And then what did he do after that? Okay, we get to the job. Maybe Pete Hegseth is going to put down the G&Ts. Sorry about that, buddy. Maybe he's going to put down the G&Ts. He's going to lock it. No, he did the opposite. He was texting war plans. What do we have to praise you for? It's the same thing for Donald Trump. All these conservatives demanded right away, Jack, you have to give him credit for the ceasefire. Have to give him credit for the ceasefire. And you watch the show, you know what I said. I said, fuck that. There is no ceasefire. If there is in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, there wasn't even an actual peace agreement. It was fantastic that hostages were released, but Israel is still indiscriminately bombing Gaza. The Palestinian people are still being killed by this regime, and we are paying for it. It is still a genocide. It is still an apartheid state in Israel, and Donald Trump didn't solve that. And now Lindsey Graham is talking about putting boots on the ground in Israel. Donald Trump is talking about blowing up Gaza, the peace president. So no, of course I wasn't going to give him credit. And that's not me being 100% anti-Trump. That's Donald Trump fucking up everything he has done in the entirety of his presidency. What do you want me to give him credit for? Like a worse-looking rose garden? Inflation is back up. Prices are skyrocketing. You're kicking people off of food stamps. Seriously, think of the thing you want me to give him credit for. I don't know. And that shouldn't be illegal. But that is what Donald Trump wants. He wants to go after journalists. He wants to go after media. He wants to go after me. I don't give a fuck. This is what he's doing. And he's like constantly watching. And Rachel Maddow talked about this in a clip that I'm probably going to keep playing on the show because it is so important that we talk about the literal new surveillance technology that was previously illegal that Donald Trump has brought back to spy on reporters, to spy on his enemies, and to try to attack them. And you need to know about it just as much as I do, considering you're fighting back against this administration. So take a look.
Cell phone spyware called Pegasus. It's spyware that infects your phone. They target your phone. You don't have to do anything wrong to be infected with it. You don't have to click on anything or do anything. They infect your phone with this spyware without you ever knowing it. Your phone shows no sign of it. And once they have infected your phone, they get access to everything that is on your phone and everything that you do with your phone. They can access its location at any time. They can turn on the microphone to hear what's happening where you are. They can turn on the camera to see you and what's around you. They can see all of the photos on your phone, all of your contacts, all of your messages, all of your notes to self, everything, even stuff that you might think is encrypted. It's not encrypted when you look at it on your phone. If you can look at it on your phone, they will have it. People close to Jamal Khashoggi were found to have been targeted, to have had their phones targeted with Pegasus software before he was murdered. Pegasus has been used to target opposition politicians and activists and lawyers and journalists all over the world, some of whom have subsequently been assassinated by despotic regimes. When this kind of a spyware surveillance tool emerged as a favored weapon for authoritarian governments and murderous dictatorships around the world, the Joe Biden administration banned the U.S. government from ever using that particular spyware or anything like it. Well, then Donald Trump was elected, and the Trump administration has now quietly reversed that ban. And indeed, they have now contracted with a company that makes exactly that same kind of spyware as Pegasus. And which part of the Trump administration is using it? Which part of the Trump administration has been given this surveillance tool? ICE. And are they using it just against immigrants? Yeah, right, as if. Headline in the Washington Post: ICE amps up its surveillance powers. ICE's acting director says the agency will deploy its elite investigative officers to probe anti-ICE protest networks. Former officials have expressed concern that ICE now has a green light not only to monitor immigrant communities, but also to carry out broad surveillance of Americans, exercising their First Amendment right to oppose government action. U.S. citizens who may not themselves be suspected of crimes. According to the Electronic Privacy Information Center, quote, "We don't know if law enforcement or ICE are even getting search warrants to deploy this software." Paragon, the company that makes this version of this no-click take over your phone software, which Trump has now given to ICE, Paragon software has been used by the Italian government to infect the phones of opposition politicians and activists who help immigrants. Penlink, another surveillance company that provides real-time location data about you to the government without a warrant, it's been used in the past to target opposition politicians and activists in Mexico and also in Hong Kong. Now our government, and specifically ICE, has those and more. Again, supposedly to use in their mission against immigrants, but also apparently to use against Americans who are protesting against them, and to use that stuff with or without a warrant, and with or without any restraint at all.
This is truly dystopian shit, and it needs to be treated like that, and I'm going to call it out every single day on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.